নমস্কার বন্ধুরা, আশা করি আপনারা সকলে ভালো আছেন, সুস্থ আছেন। আমি অঙ্কন অ্যান্ড ওয়ান্স এগেন ওয়েলকাম ব্যাক টু মাই ইউটিউব চ্যানেল দ্য ওয়ান্ডারার্স মনোলগ। আজকে যে বিষয় নিয়ে আমি কথা বলতে চলেছি, অবশ্য আমরা অনেক বিষয় নিয়ে কথা বলি, আর মূলত ট্রাভেল ব্লগ হিসেবেই আমার ইউটিউব চ্যানেল পরিচিত, কিন্তু এর বাইরে যে বিষয় নিয়ে আমি কথা বলবো সেই বিষয় হচ্ছে আধ্যাত্মিকতা। এর আগেও আপনারা দেখেছেন ইসকন মায়াপুরের স্বামী জীবনাথ দাসের সঙ্গে আমি একটা ইউটিউবের ইন্টারভিউ করেছিলাম, এবং আমি আজকে ভীষণভাবে আপ্লুত, ফরচুনেট যদি বলি, যে আমি আজকে যাকে আমার সঙ্গে পেয়েছি তারকেও আমার সঙ্গে একটা দীর্ঘ কথোপকথনের মধ্যে আমরা বাঁধব। তার আগে জানিয়ে রাখি আমি কোথায় আছি। আমি এই মুহূর্তে আছি দেবভূমি ঋষিকেশে, এবং এই জায়গাটার নাম হচ্ছে পরমার্থ নিকেতন। আর আমার সঙ্গে যে মহারাজ আছেন, যে স্বামীজি আছেন, স্বামী সেবানন্দজি মহারাজ, তার সঙ্গে এই কথোপকথনে যাওয়ার আগে আপনাদের একটা ছোট্ট অনুরোধ জানিয়ে রাখি যে ইফ ইউ হ্যাভেন্ট সাবস্ক্রাইব টু মাই চ্যানেল, ইফ ইউ হ্যাভেন্ট সিন মাই ভিডিওস আর্লিয়ার, তাহলে দয়া করে আমার ভিডিওর সাবস্ক্রাইব বাটনটা টিপে বেল আইকনটা টিপে দিতে ভুলবেন না, যাতে লেটেস্ট ভিডিওর আপডেট আপনার কাছে পৌঁছে যায়। That was
Subscribe.
Maharaj,
Click. Subscribe.
Such an honor to be at your presence. So happy to be with you. We have met very briefly, but it was my good fortune that I managed to get your permission to get this YouTube video done. So Maharaj, before we jump into the deeper conversations about life and mindfulness, can I just ask you a little about your past life and what actually have drawn you into spirituality?
I think, to be honest with you, I think we're all spiritual to begin with. So I don't think it's a question of being drawn into spirituality as much as I think it's a question of allowing ourselves to experience the spirituality. We are, in fact, spirits. We are divine souls, right? Having a human experience. So it's about returning to our roots more than it is discovering something new. I've always been spiritual. There are pictures of me when I was back in New York City, receiving confirmation in the Catholic faith, and I'm sitting there like this with little white gloves on, and in the pew looking at the priest, and just all very, very religious, right? I'm the only one doing it. Everyone else is all like this, but I'm sitting like this. So there's always been this element of connection to the divine, connection to spirituality and stuff like that. It's just that living in this world, it's so easy to be distracted by it, to end up going over here, going over there, whatever. So what happened basically was that the life that I had constructed for myself just collapsed. It was a life based in materialism, based in dysfunction, based in addiction.
Right.
And all of those things collapsed on one day. It was on my birthday, 58th birthday. And everything just stopped working. And for a couple of months I sort of floated around trying to figure out how to fix this. And I thought more drugs would work, I thought more alcohol would work, I thought more this would work. But none of it did. So all that was left to me was something that had been a part of my life at various points in my life. And that was the mat, the yoga mat. So I got back on the mat, I started meditating again, I started reading Gita, I started just doing all the things that we're taught to do to connect to the divine. And this time it worked, and this time it clicked, and this time it just... In the Catholic faith, there's a story of Saul, who became St. Paul, and he was really not a great guy. And he used to go slaughter people, he went to war all the time, he was not your run-of-the-mill good Catholic. At any rate, one day he was riding his horse and God appeared to him, and a lightning bolt came from the sky, knocked him off of his horse, and his life was transformed. And he became St. Paul. And that's what happened to me. I'm not saying I became a saint, but the horse got knocked out from under me. I was down on my knees, and I was humble and surrendered to God for the first time in my life. And since then, it's just been a beautiful progression into a deeper and more meaningful connection. So it's been a beautiful journey. Beautiful journey.
Beautiful journey. And when you say about this, I believe that in some way or the other, the lightning strikes to everybody, and that is when they find the purpose in life. And so, is the purpose for everybody, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, doctrines, and dogmas, are the same, which is self-realization?
And in actuality, it's just returning to who we are, right? It's remembering who we are. There's a wonderful book out called The Disappearance of the Universe, and it was written by a person who transcribed A Course in Miracles. And in it, it talks about the separation from God, how we are all one. And at some point in our history, our egos took over. And we decided, well, we're God too, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to create our own universe. And so we created this universe separate from God. And that's what all this is. So now we're spending all of our time just trying to get reconnected to it. But we have to sit there and continue to create the chaos in the world, because that way it justifies, some way in our twisted thinking, justifies the separation. So that's why we have luxury items, and that's why we have all of these wonderful things on the planet that we just can't seem to give up, because we need to justify that separation. And if life here is good enough, which is what happened to me in my last program, but if life here is good enough, we won't want to recreate. Well, I've got everything I need. I've got this beautiful life. I've got all this wonderful stuff that happens to me. Why do I need God? So all we've done is justified what we did in the beginning, which was separate from Him. So yes, the goal of all of our lives is to go back home, to go back.
Right. As Maharaji, as you rightly mentioned about that what separates us from our true self, which is divinity. I wonder that that ego that we talk about, which is the grand illusion altogether. Now, when we talk about justifying the means, like, yes, I bought this because this is what I need. Though I don't need it, but still I need it. So it's like my ego is every time justifying my cause by just giving me a second-hand explanation of what I'm trying to do. And what I'm trying to say here is like that is the major illusion. And as I have read and experienced in life also, you can probably help me out with this, that illusion is something which you can never break away permanently. It stays with you, the Maya stays with you until a point of time. And still, amidst the Maya, we also have to realize our true self. So how come that is possible? It sounds very difficult to me, that the existence of the illusion is there, and also parallelly I'm trying to find out who really this individual is. So how does these two ends meet?
It's funny because Pujya Sadhuji spoke about this in satsang last year. There are two levels, right? There's the spiritual level and there's the physical level.
Right.
And ideally what we want to do is find balance between the two. Because as long as we're living in this material world, right, we're going to have material experiences. And that's okay. Because again, we've incarnated. And it's all part of God's plan anyway.
Right.
So it's all right to have that material experience. But we can't lose sight of who we are and what the truth of who we are actually is, which is divine. Now, it's interesting because what came into my mind as you were talking is the wonderful acronym for ego, easing God out, right? So ego, that's its job. Its job is to create an identity for us, right? And to do that, we have to ease God out. Our ego has to create that separation. And so, yeah, we're going to continue to, the ego, it's going to continue to create those things that cause that separation. Because again, if we go back to God, the ego doesn't have a place to exist, right? Because we've got God. And if you've got God, you don't need the ego, and you don't need anything else. So the ego is going to do whatever it has to do to continue that separation, and to strengthen that separation. The more we get closer to God, the more the ego is going to fight to kill us. Because it loses its identity. It's like dying. It's in its death throes. It's sitting there going, if I let this happen, I don't exist anymore. I don't think there's any animal on earth that would allow itself to not exist anymore. And so all of that is an effort by the ego. We just have to remember the ego isn't who we are. We are divine soul. The ego is this mind, like sort of like a computer, right? Back in the day, before we had actual computers and things like that, all we had was electric typewriters. You used to be able to create a macro, which was Control Alt and then the letter.
Yes.
So if you do Control Alt A and then type a sentence, and then you do Control Alt A, that locks the sentence into it. So whenever you do Control Alt A, the same sentence types out. That's what we are. We're computers. We have so many subscribers, so many habits, so many things that we've been programmed to do, that whenever we hit Control Alt A, the same type, the same sentence types out. And so it's all about being mindful, using the mind as the tool that it is, to try and look at all of this and recognize, okay, that's my ego. This is who I really am. It's okay for the ego to be active, but I'm not the ego. It's about being mindful, again, using the mind for what it was created for, as a tool to keep us alive, to keep us functioning, to help us to do things. So it's mindfulness is being aware of the fact that there are two selves.
And also, I'd like to understand this, that when we talk about mindfulness, when we talk about meditation, and we keep on talking about this, the yoga, the Kali Yuga, and it's a little difficult for us to focus on anything. And we're just switching into the whole world of social media where people have lesser attention span than a goldfish, which is even less than 8 seconds. So how
nice
do
that you knew that number.
I teach this.
That's beautiful.
So, as sitting back at one place, closing your eyes and probably focusing on something is such a difficult task for the youth specifically in today's times. So what advice do you have for them?
The thing of it is it's not a difficult task. The difficult task is telling ourselves that it's not a difficult task. Because, again, your ego, right? Your ego is going to make it a difficult task so that you don't do it. That's the whole goal. Because as soon as you start meditating, as soon as you start doing your sadhana, you're getting closer to God. And again, your ego doesn't want to do that. It's all a conscious choice. We have to decide. And this is what I came to realize why I'm where I am. All of this stuff isn't real, and it doesn't last. If you have a craving for something, right? Let's say you have a craving for pizza, and you've got to have that pizza. All you can think about all day long is, oh my gosh, I can't wait till dinner so I can have pizza tonight. Cannot wait, I want my pizza. You get your pizza, and you've satisfied your cravings. Beautiful, wonderful. And then you want ice cream.
Yes.
Right? There's always going to be desire. And it's more about the desire and the craving than it is about the pizza or the ice cream. It's this searching for something to fix us. And so we go and we look, the pizza's going to solve everything, the ice cream's going to solve everything, all these things are going to solve everything. Right? But then once we get it, we want something new. So it's about realizing that all of these cravings, all of these things that we want, aren't about real things. Right? The pizza's gone. You have your pizza, it's gone, it's done. So you've had this craving for something that no longer exists. So the thing to do is, what is going to really bring us true happiness? What is going to truly bring us peace? And for me, that's the connection to the divine. Because again, I've had all that other stuff. I've had all the things that you are, that every one of you out there is craving. You're craving the car, you're craving this, you're craving all these things. I've had all of those things. And none of them last. And when they're gone, right? But what isn't gone? Not gone. Now, you've got to have faith in that. You've got to believe that there is a God, of course, first of all. But then it's real easy to pick something that's lasting, something that never fails you, over something that goes away. Which is more important, and which is going to bring you the longest lasting joy and satisfaction. It's not going to be this pizza that's done in one sitting, this ice cream that melts or is done in one sitting. It's going to be that connection. And once you have that connection, once you feel that connection, and the joy and the grace and the peace and everything that comes with it, you'll never want pizza again. Now, that's a lie. I still want pizza. but the point is, in terms of what we truly, truly want, it's always going to be that.
The need and want question.
Yeah, we don't need anything, really. We need a little bit of food, we need some air, and we need water, and that's it. That's all we need. We don't need all this other stuff that advertisers continue to tell us that we need. But they've got a job to do, right? And they do it very, very well, because now everyone wants everything. Anyway.
So, that comes to my last question. And I think you have already answered that. When you say that, I was just about to ask you that, when we talk about money, I've seen a lot of people, they have enough, they do have ample, something that they can never finish in one lifetime, but still they are looking for it, hunting for it, knowing that this money will only give me another scope of insufficiency of the wealth, where they will again keep on running after the next buck. So what I wonder is, like, which you already have answered, that where does this end? Where do I put this full stop? That it's done. It is not fetching you anything. Let's stop.
It's all a choice, right? It's all mindful thinking. There's a lot of talk in the news about our dear brother Elon Musk, right?
Yes.
Here's a man who's got more money than most people will ever see in 100 lifetimes. And he wants to go and colonize Mars, as opposed to helping to fix the problems here on Earth. He's all mad because Twitter says mean things about him, so he's going to spend $43 billion to buy Twitter, so that people won't say mean things about him. Okay? That $43 billion could cure homelessness in the United States. It could cure hunger in the United States. One day's income of this man could cure the hunger problem in the world. Right? And yet, he makes the choice to go and colonize Mars, to go buy Twitter, rather than actually do something that will help humanity. That's a conscious choice on his part. Today, he could spend one day's salary and fix everything. But he's making a choice not to do that. And I don't know what kind of person that is. I do not understand the depravity of that kind of person. To have the resources to change the destiny of literally billions of people around the world, and choose not to do it. Choose to buy Twitter instead, so people won't say mean things about you. I don't understand that thinking. I don't. And I hope never to understand it. Because a dear friend of mine used to always say, if you understand something, you become a part of it. And I don't ever want to become a part. I don't want to ever become a part of the thinking that takes $43 billion to stop bullying against you, as opposed to curing homelessness or curing hunger. I don't want to know that person. I don't want to understand that philosophy. I want to still love that person. I still want to love, and I don't want to ever close my heart to that person or to anyone like that. But I certainly don't want to understand that. That to me is just ungodly. It's inhumane. And so, we thought that COVID was going to stop everything. We thought that when we were all locked down and we couldn't go out anymore and everything else, and we were all looking at death as a real viable option, We thought that that was going to wake us up. We hoped, we prayed, here's this opportunity, because we would see these videos of nature taking back over again, of the animals, the elephants coming down to Ganga and drinking from Ganga, you know, all the animals running in the streets and everything else, because humans weren't around to mess things up anymore. We thought, beautiful wake-up call here. You know, thus far, the loss hasn't been so devastating. Thus far, a small fraction of the planet's been affected by this in terms of dying and health and stuff like that. Maybe this will wake us up and the damage won't be too great. Coming right back to where we started. Nothing's changed because of our egos. And the only thing that I know that changes that is connecting to God. Because when you see the divine in each other, when you see the divine in all of creation, how can you act against that? When you see the faces of all of those children that go to bed hungry at night, right? That $43 billion that's going to buy Twitter could fix. When you see those beautiful faces and realize that they may not wake up in the morning because they're hungry, and you see the divine in them, and you see that that is your brother or your sister, and that is your family right there, once you see that, you cannot deny that anymore. And the only thing the only way that you get that is through the grace of God. And that's what changes. That's what transforms us. It's that connection to the divine. When we are connected, we can't act badly. We just can't, because we recognize that all of this is God. All of this is God. And you're going to go slap God? You're going to go beat up on God? You're going to go starve God? I don't think so. I don't think so. So recognizing that we are Vasudeva Kutumbakam, we are one family. Right? Once you realize that, you can't treat anyone badly or with disrespect. So finding that beautiful connection, refinding that beautiful connection, that's the answer to it. That's the answer to all of this, I need more money. Because when you have God, you don't need anything, including money. Most importantly. So yeah, just spend some time getting connected. Instead of going out and earning more money, go out and earn some time with God. Spend some time with Him. That's how we'll all change. And that's how the world will become the paradise that God meant for it to be to begin with. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I still want pizza.
Such a deep, insightful conversation. Swamiji, I'm really, really thankful to you for giving us this time, and we hope to meet you again. And I'm hoping with Arpita to come back as soon as possible and meet you and be here and meditate and feel connected.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us in this conversation. And again, you will get more such conversations by subscribing to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to hit that like button and the bell button. Yes, this works.
Subscribe.
Thank you so much for being with us. We'll catch you later, soon.